when it comes to menopause, we're told very little. But when it comes to hormonal health in any shape or form, we're also told very little. So there's a lot of focus right now on the word menopause, but I actually want to take it a step back and teach you a little bit about hormonal health, because what we run the risk of doing right now is blaming everything that happens to a woman over the age of like 35 on this word menopause, when in reality there's a lot bigger of a hormonal picture and a disconnect going on there, rather than solely just the word menopause. So let's take it back a step. Let's teach you around hormonal health and what are the raw materials that we need for that, so you can distinguish, is my symptoms down to my overall hormonal health and what I'm doing for that? Or is it solely just the decline of estrogen? Or is it a combination of both? So the hormone truth, why supplements and HRT are not enough by themselves. What are hormones and why they matter? Let's start there. Something that we probably should have been educated when we first hit puberty. We unfortunately never were. So how do hormones work? Firstly, hormones are produced in the body. So hormones are made and released by endocrine glands such as the pancreas or the thyroid. They then are transported. So hormones then enter the bloodstream and circulate throughout the body. They target specific cells. So hormones only affect cells with specific receptors that fit the hormones, like a key in a certain lock. So they are produced, they are released, and then they go through the body looking for the receptors that those certain hormones match. Once they find that match, then there is a cellular response. So once the hormone finds its little door where it has the key for, the hormone binds to that and it triggers a specific response in that target cell or organ. So if we have an example and we use the hormone insulin, so you eat something, especially carbohydrates in this circumstance, your body breaks it down to glucose, i.e. sugar, that then enters your bloodstream. Your pancreas detects the rise in blood sugar after you have eaten and releases the hormone insulin from the pancreas into the blood to get to work. That insulin then travels through your blood to reach your cells like muscle, fat, and liver cells. It all has certain keys for certain doors. It acts like a key, unlocking the cells in those muscles, fats, and liver cells, so the glucose can move from the blood into the cell and then can be used for energy or stored. That process helps keep your blood sugar at level. There's thousands of these things that happen on a daily basis. Your body is running thousands upon thousands of hormone-driven processes every single day, based on whether it's an external reaction like eating and foods breaking down and your body releasing hormones to help you manage that, whether it's a stress response, whether it's you've gone to the gym and your body has detected muscle breakdown and it's releasing hormones to help you with that. Thousands of these hormones are being produced all day, every day, pumped through your body to deliver a cellular response to help your body keep itself optimal. Humans have over 50 different hormones, each with its own job, and many of them work together like a team, so they depend on each other. They come from different glands, so they come from our brain, our thyroid, our pancreas, our ovaries, and our adrenal glands. So it's obviously when it comes to menopause, we're talking about the changes in our ovaries, but we have hormones all over our body. I want to walk through some main groups of hormones. This will really start to get us to understand the importance of hormones and the importance of like the larger picture and how they all work together. So we have our sex hormones, which are massively talked about on social media, especially now. These are our reproductive hormones. So they help regulate our menstrual cycle, our fertility, our libido, our pregnancy, and our puberty. So things like testosterone, estrogen, and progesterone. We have then metabolic hormones. So these are specific hormones that regulate how our body uses food, stores fat, and controls energy. These change throughout menopause as well, not just estrogen. So estrogen is not the only metabolic hormone. It's in that little team. So if you think of like a football field, if estrogen is on that team of metabolic hormones and it's no longer there, all of the metabolic hormones then struggle. But it's not only estrogen that's in that. They all need to work together. This is why visceral fat can change around our core. Stress hormones, big one being cortisol. They help our body respond to physical and emotional stress. We have sleep hormones, so like melatonin and cortisol again. They help regulate our body's internal clock and rest cycles. So you don't just fall asleep out of luck. Your body actually needs to be producing enough melatonin hormones. Your body needs to be in a nice circadian rhythm, so it knows when to release those melatonin, it knows when to release the cortisol and so on. It only knows those things when we are in that nice circadian rhythm. Your brain and your mood hormones. So a lot of these are actually produced in the gut. So like our main mood hormone serotonin is produced in the gut. They influence our emotions, our mental clarity, and our sense of well-being. Then we have our growth and development hormones. So these are hormones that help us grow and repair, and they develop through different life stages. So these are things like hormones that are released to help with our bone density, with our muscle mass. It's help with regards to just even like how tall you are, your broadness, and so on. And most of these are actually produced when you're in a deep sleep, and they get regulated when we're in a deep sleep. So how are hormones made? What goes on? We don't think they don't just magically occur inside of our body. Hormones are built inside your body from the raw materials you give it, mostly from cholesterol, protein, so good quality proteins, fats, and vitamins and minerals from food. Vitamins and minerals are found in food. I know because we talk so much about supplements on social media that when we talk about the word vitamins and minerals, we automatically think pills inside a pill box. Vitamins and minerals are actually found in food. But I wanted to hone you in on this. So hormones are built inside your body from the raw materials you give it, i.e., these things that our body requires, they're not self-produced by our body. So our hormones, and let's think about this really clearly, our hormones require on external things to be produced. So what do you think happens when we don't give our body the external things that the hormones need to be produced? That's what we want to explore. So what your body needs to build and balance hormones, this is what we want to go through. There are essential things that your body relies on every day from you to provide it so it can do its job in behind the scenes. Firstly, healthy fats and cholesterol. So hormones like estrogen, progesterone, cholesterol, testosterone are all made from cholesterol. Your body uses omega-3s, saturated fats, and cholesterol to build them. So this is why low fats or a fear of fat can actually lead to a lot of hormone deficiencies. So when we are cutting out all fats, we're not really getting around 60 grams, give or take. Sometimes it's a little bit less, depending on your output and your overall goals. But when we're not getting a good quality amount of healthy fats on a daily basis, our body isn't getting what it actually needs to build those hormones in behind the scenes. Enough protein, which is a big one. Hormones like insulin, thyroid hormones, growth hormones are all made from the amino acids that are only found in protein. Our body can't self-produce these. These come from eating enough high quality proteins. So our body doesn't just magically produce these hormones. These hormones are built from the amino acids that are found in the protein that you eat. So if you're not eating enough protein, you're not giving your body enough amino acids, hence your body's never going to be enough and able to produce enough of those hormones in behind the scenes. Key nutrients, as I mentioned, vitamins and minerals, which are food, they're not pills in a pill box. But your body needs enough nutrients. So not just, it doesn't matter if you just eat some, it needs enough nutrients from like magnesium, zinc, B vitamins, vitamin D, all of these on a daily basis. Again, these aren't self-produced inside of our body. So if we're not getting these, we are not getting the combinations that we need for those hormones to be on that team, on that football field, to be doing everything in sync then on a daily basis. Low to moderate stress is really important. So chronic stress uses up a lot of our raw materials. So even if you are giving your body enough healthy fats, enough vitamins, enough from food, not pills in the pill box, enough protein, but you're in a constant state of chronic stress or fight or flight, your body is actually using these raw materials to help with keep that chronic stress down rather than using those raw materials to build other hormones. So when you're constantly stressed, your body prioritizes cortisol over other hormones, mainly sex hormones, like things like progesterone. We need progesterone to help us sleep. So when we aren't doing that, and this is for anybody at any age, not just in menopause, we aren't actually being able to do that. This is why we call this kind of thing cortisol steal. So it drains your hormone making resources to help with the cholesterol hormone. As I mentioned, when we go into menopause, we only really talk about estrogen and progesterone, but there's 50 different types of hormones every single day, and our body requires raw materials to produce all of those. So estrogen is just one player on that entire team of football players, and all of those football players are only there because of the raw materials that you have built them from. So if you're not giving yourself enough raw materials to build any of the players, there's not going to be any players on the pitch, never mind just the estrogen. But let's say you've given yourself, your body, enough materials, you have all your players here, but cortisol is running a rack. It's just running through everything in. It's going crazy. It's going haywire. It's causing havoc the entire way. Then all your raw materials then are just going to be pumped and drained from building hormones to actually helping cortisol stay regulated. Deep, consistent sleep. As I mentioned earlier, a lot of the hormones and processes are actually only occurred when we're in a deep sleep. So hormone production and repair happen when you sleep. So poor sleep, it disrupts insulin, thyroid, cholesterol, melatonin, and a lot of our sex hormones. This is why, for example, when we have a drop in libido, we'll always look at somebody's sleep quality, because a drop of deep quality sleep, even from like 60 minutes, can impact testosterone production and libido by around about 15 to 20%. Daily movement, not overtraining, but daily movement. So moderate exercise improves insulin sensitivity, it reduces stress, it helps regulate the estrogen so we don't become estrogen dominant. Overtraining can spike cortisol and throw hormones off, especially in women. So this is where we want to, yes, do daily movement, of course, but we don't want to overtrain, especially if we're under eating. So let's say then now estrogen enters the chat, so we can put a little bit more focus on what happens when we go through menopause. Estrogen is one of the most powerful and essential hormones in a woman's body. It's like a multitasking queen. So estrogen helps regulate your menstrual cycle, support fertility, but it also helps with your skin, your hair, your bones health. It supports a stable mood and keeps your brain functionality sharp. It maintains heart health, helps with insulin resistance, i.e. your blood sugar control, enhances collagen, vaginal health, supports serotonin and other mood boosting hormones. So multitasking queen, doing lots of different things. But one of the most interesting roles that estrogen plays is when you're constantly not giving your body what it needs, i.e. the nutrients, the rest, the movement, the blood sugar balance, the stress regulation, your hormonal system starts to compensate. And estrogen will often step in to protect you. That's one of the most interesting roles that estrogen plays. It helps protect you. It steps up to the plate. Your body produces more estrogen to compensate the lack of hormone raw materials that it's receiving from you to help produce other hormones. So if you're in your 20s and your 30s and you're not giving yourself the raw materials that hormones need, so you're not eating enough protein, you're not drinking enough water, you're not having enough nutrient-dense foods, you're not moving enough, you're constantly in a state of stress, you're skipping out on sleep. Your body senses that it's not getting enough raw hormones, it's not getting enough raw materials, to produce these other hormones. So estrogen, your hormonal system starts to compensate. Your body then starts to produce more estrogen. This is unfortunately when this happens for long periods of time, women find themselves estrogen dominant. This is where they get a lot of PMS symptoms and so on. We don't really just educate women on that. We'll usually just throw them the pill if they come into a doctor's office. But this is typically what's happening in those situations. And so that is a great way that estrogen helps as a role. It protects our body when we're not giving it enough of the raw materials to help with the hormonal regulation. But when menopause occurs, estrogen leaves the chat. So estrogen is no longer there. So your body, if you're in a place then where your body's still not getting raw materials from you, but now there's no longer estrogen being produced to compensate this, the hormone processes across your entire body begin to fall apart. So you're not getting all of the raw materials. Estrogen is no longer there to protect you from this and overcompensate from that. Hence, everything then starts to fall apart. So we can look at it when it comes to this, and I like to separate it on these kind of three things. So raw materials, estrogen, and hormonal health. So as a summary, the raw materials are these. So like we need enough protein, enough nutrients, enough water, enough fiber, enough fats, etc. When we don't get these, estrogen then can be produced more to give us a protective layer. So we need both of these to have good, stable hormonal health. we need primarily this. This is what we need to produce all of those other hormones. As I mentioned, there's over 50 hormones. They produce thousands of different processes each day. Estrogen is not the only hormone in our body. So we need these to produce all of those other hormones that help with our stress, our energy, our joints, our moods, our overall well-being, our heart health, and so on. When we don't get enough of those, estrogen then steps up to the plate. It's produced more to help then the body with the production of all the other hormones. This then allows us to have good health. So we either do all of this and we just keep our body at a good, normal, stable level of estrogen, or we don't have a lot of this, so we produce more estrogen and we still have hormonal health. So this is the kind of seesaw that we play in our teens, in our 20s, in our 30s. Giving our body enough raw materials, so we're good. When we don't give enough raw materials, we produce more estrogen, so we come back into balance. So our body's constantly in this like kind of seesaw to keep us in balance, depending on what our habits are. When menopause happens, this no longer comes to play. So we don't have that seesaw anymore. So we don't have the luxury of when we have less raw materials, we don't have estrogen there anymore to actually get us back into balance. So we just continue to stay out of balance then when it comes to hormonal health. So as I mentioned, estrogen is gone. So this is it. This is now our equation to get hormonal health. So this becomes vitally important. More than ever before. This is obviously important at all ages. It's always important to get enough protein and eat nutrient-dense foods and actually move and get consistent sleep and so on. However, when we no longer have the luxury of estrogen on that seesaw to keep us balanced when we are underplaying this, our hormone health is going to be out of sync. Now, obviously, you can replace some of this estrogen with HRT, but even then, the dosages of HRT need to be kept low for safety purposes. We're not going to replace all of the estrogen benefits that we had prior to menopause with HRT, but they can be used inside of that toolbox. So when people come to me and say, is it okay if I don't use HRT? It's an individual aspect and it's an individual answer that you ask for yourself. But my answer is always, if you don't utilize HRT, you need to be aware that your equation is this. It's only this then. Okay, so you're not having estrogen in that. You can still get the equation, but you need to make sure you're double down on this. You need to make sure that if your body is no longer getting estrogen to help with that seesaw, the whole onus is on you. The whole onus to get your body what it needs to produce hormones is on the raw materials that your body has needed from day dot. But you had estrogen as a protective layer. So if you remove estrogen from the equation, you need to then step up and make sure that you're consistently giving your body the raw materials that it's always needed to produce hormonal health. If you want to utilize HRT, then you have that little bit of a wriggle room. However, HRT, as I mentioned, will still be kept low on dosages, so it's still important to be doing these elements. It's up to you then in terms of what you feel is going to be put into your toolbox. Obviously, with HRT, you may not want to be on long term. You may want to stop it depending on your health and what you're utilizing it for. So again, this should always be the first focus. This should always be the first conversation when it comes to hormonal health. Hopefully this helps give you an understanding and a sense onto why when we look at hormonal health in the bigger picture, actually a lot of it is underpinned by this and what we're doing here, and not just on estrogen and leaving the chat when it comes to menopause. The fact that estrogen leaves the chat when we go into menopause simply just means it shines a light on things that maybe you weren't doing prior, because you no longer have that protective layer where estrogen is producing more to help keep your hormonal health in balance, which can make it feel then that everything is falling apart, because perhaps you're not giving your body, and you haven't been giving your body maybe enough raw materials. Now you no longer have estrogen, and so everything falls apart, rather than just solely the symptoms that would be related if estrogen was to just leave, but the raw materials were still there. As always, any questions, let me know, and I'll catch you on the next video.